Great, and it shows that we're live on YouTube and on Facebook. As you know, I'll just wait a couple minutes before I actually get us kicked off and started. Okay, it's almost done. And for those of you that start hopping on, please let us know that you're with me. Give me that comment or thumbs up if you haven't already, because that's my key way of figuring out who's on here. But I think it's actually showing me this time. Thank you. Thank you. You guys are so good at listening. I love this. Awesome. Okay, we're going to get started. Good morning and happy Monday to you all. I am Juliette Abdel, President and CEO of the Westminster Chamber of Commerce. And for our newcomers, I hope that you find this video invaluable and you keep returning to us. The best way that you can do that is by liking this page, by hitting the follow button so you can get those timely alerts, and you can pause your day so you can tune in for that 30 minutes of nuggets of knowledge is what I like to call them. And then for those of you that are returning back with us, I see Councillor Bowles, Brian Head, it looks like Brian Dice, Councillor Seymour, several of you are hopping on here with us. Thank you for returning. We always like to see your smiling faces. And we love compliments. I always say they're like water. So if you hear something that's amazing, let us know what that is, and give us that kudos and shout outs, and we'll try and return that favor to you as well. Now, I've pulled up a couple comments, and I'll start doing this just so everyone can get familiar. At the very bottom of this video, if you're watching this live, you have the option of providing us comments, like our board chair, Brian Dice, has by sharing a good morning message to us. Our Councillor Seymour, who always likes to make me emphasize Monday. So happy Monday morning, Westminster. Councillor Bowles as well. Now, this is a feature that's available to you. If you have a comment or if you have a question during this broadcast, we encourage you to type that into the chat section of this broadcast so we can pull that up for you, get your question addressed, but more importantly, see what you're finding as more valuable to you. So good morning to you as well, Councillor Bowles. Right? Every time I see Jason on a live, I'm always like, oh, he really does look like he's in Colorado. Meanwhile, I look like I'm in some institution over here. So thank you again, Brian, for hopping on here with us. So generally, I start the week off with our mayor, and this week it's a little bit different. I have Jason Gank. Jason is the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Libraries for the City of Westminster, but I'm incredibly excited. I actually met Jason about 2 months into the job, really. I think it was about 3.5 years ago now. And we sat down, and every time that we sit down, we kind of come back and say, okay, here's what we're going to do to accomplish and move Westminster forward. And I can't think of somebody who's equally as competitive and passionate and dedicated to the community as I am. So he's going to share a little bit about his department, some key items he wants to highlight, but this is a very engaging conversation. So if you have something, a burning question that you want us to get to, let us know what that is. Jason, it is yours. I'll mute myself and the floor is for you.
You know, thanks, Juliette. I really appreciate that introduction. And you're right, we hit it off day one. And I've always enjoyed your energy, and I can't thank you enough for our collaboration, and what you're doing for the chamber is absolutely fantastic. You know, I don't know about that competitive comment. It was a lot more competitive 20 years ago, Julia, just so we're clear. I think children and career and all that have really softened me up quite a bit. But what I do believe, you know, I definitely did pursue public administration, serving municipalities, you know, for my entire career, 27 years now. And yes, I am competitive when it comes to finding ways for the community. There's no question. I get a little excited. That doesn't mean, you know, that I have all the greatest ideas in the world, because I don't, but I do get very passionate about what I do in serving our community. So nice introduction. I really appreciate that. So Parks, Recreation, and Library, City of Westminster, one of many departments in the city working very hard. The city, of course, is a full service city, having so many wonderful departments. Parks, Recreation, and Libraries is a couple highlights. We are responsible for 1/3 of the entire city, meaning public spaces, open space, parks, golf courses. That's actually 1/3 of the entire city. So our staff are responsible for maintaining and activating these. We have at any given year, not this year, but any given year, about 1,000 employees. But, to be clear, some of those employees are teaching, one class and that sort of thing. But that kind of gives you an idea of how many different ways we are involved with the community, from how many folks that we hire in our department, which is the largest in the entire city. We have about 220 full-time equivalent staff working year-round to do their very best to serve the community. In a given year, we track 2.5 million transactions in parks, recreation, and libraries. So it gives you an idea of how many patrons visit our recreation facilities, our golf courses, and those types of things. Obviously, we can't track everything, nor do we necessarily want to. But if you kind of think about it, from 2.5 million transactions a year, typically you multiply that number by 2 as far as industry standard. It gives you an idea of the usability, the use of your entire system. So we see a lot of folks, and we love it. We love serving our patrons. All of our staff have quite a passion for public service. We really miss our patrons right now, Julia. This has been probably the toughest year in my entire 27 years. How do you maximize community benefit, do the best you can, yet navigate so many ever-changing, constant changing directions from public health? I'm not blaming public health. They have such a hard job to do, but we've been doing our very best. And keep in mind, as you already know, Westminster is governed by 2 public health organizations, Tri-County Health and Jefferson County Public Health, who've been doing a great job. We just need to make sure that whatever the most stringent regulation is that's the one we're following for our entire city, because we won't divide our city when it comes to public health. So just a little bit, a little bit of background about the department, a little bit of background of kind of the current challenges that we're under, but certainly overall, the Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Department has a tremendous sense of pride for what we do in serving the community, tries very hard to stay in touch with our community as far as types of services that they want to see. And we work very hard at that. A couple other fun facts I'll give you real quick. We typically offer 200 fitness classes per week. Our department is also mostly responsible, not that we're the only ones, for homelessness, as far as interaction and navigating through all of our challenges and opportunities with the homelessness community. We are also responsible for the majority of the city's special events through our cultural affairs department. I mentioned golf already. We have, of course, 2 golf courses. We have a greenhouse that provides all of the material for our parks, but also places like Waterworld. We're in partnership with them. We're responsible for the majority of the city's medians, not all of them, to be clear, but the majority of the city's medians. We have our own design development staff that do a tremendous job in designing and upgrading our public spaces throughout our system. So kind of, again, gives you a quick hit as the type of different things that we do, Juliet. So I have a number of things to highlight, but why don't I pause there for a second to see if you have any initial questions or any comments?
Well, I have a comment myself before I start pulling up some of these comments, but you mentioned 27 years in the industry. So I'm thinking our conversation before hopping on here about college never happened for you. You had to have started when you were in high school or something. That's crazy to me, close to 30 years. So Lori.
Julia, I was very fortunate. I started out as my mom, I grew up in South Chicago, and my mom regularly took me to volunteer at the YMCAs, at the senior facilities in areas like Harvey, Illinois. I'm talking south side there, those areas. And I learned a lot about public service, and it's just something that I enjoyed. And so I was very lucky and fortunate to find some tremendous mentors that really showed me the opportunities. And so I made the most of it. And so, I finished undergrad in St. Francis, Illinois, recreation administration, public management in 3.5 years, grad school, public administration, Arizona State, worked for the city of Phoenix for a couple of years too. I finished that in 1.5 years, but I was just ready to start serving, Julia. I mean, by the way, just like you, okay, I was ready to start serving like that. It's kind of what I was doing since I was already 8 years old, following my mom around, volunteering at every place you can imagine.
I tell you, it's the strong women that really helped shape where we headed for sure. I've got one of those, and she's been a blessing in my life. I see Deb on here. Shout out to you, Wayne Anderson and Lori. We've just got a couple of comments. For those of you that are just now hopping on here with us, we've got Jason Gang with us, the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Libraries here for the City of Westminster, and he's laid out kind of what his department does. So he's touched a little bit on the parts of the city that they're responsible for, over a third, from the open space to parks to the libraries to the fitness centers that are around the area to medians that you might not think of. Then the collaborations and partnerships that they've had with Highlands Hills, with working with 2 health departments and adjusting to the guidelines that are coming out in response to COVID. Generally, with their staff being close to about 1,000, but that includes the part-time, the seasonal, the interns, those types that are helping keep everything smooth and running outside of the current environment that we're obviously in, and several other things. I've done my best to capture a lot of that into the comment section of this broadcast, but I encourage you to, now that you know what they're responsible for and what they kind of oversee, to ask those questions that Jason can handle. Lori just shared, she doesn't hop on here very often, but when she does, she finds that these are very informative for community. So thank you, Lori, for hopping on here. I know she did come back and also give us a good morning message as she's sharing, thanks for the diversity of our guests, and enjoy seeing all that. So thank you so much. I'm so glad that you captured that and highlighted it, because I am trying to bring together diversity of thought, ideas, and topics throughout all of our broadcasts. And of course, Wayne Anderson, good morning to you as well. Thank you. I know Jason and you both are involved with the Westminster Legacy Foundation and numerous other organizations in our community. So it's always nice to see a friendly face. So those were the awesome comments. Well, it looks like we have another comment from Councillor Bowles. Was PR&L involved? Oh, okay. Awesome. Okay, so this is a comment / question / education. So Councillor Bowles is referencing a project that just unveiled here in the city of Westminster. And so his comment or question is, how involved was PR&L in the process of these babe walls that went up here for 2020? It's an amazing community project. So can you speak on that and tell us what your involvement was?
Yeah, I appreciate that comment and then the opportunity to promote that program a little bit. And with several council members, I believe, on the call today, I just want to also make sure that I acknowledge none of this is possible from the support of all of our council members. They've been amazing to support the innovative ways to try to be responsive to the community during a public health crisis. They've really challenged us to be the best we possibly can be for the community, and for that, it's a pleasure to serve with all of them. Babe Walls is for the folks that may not be familiar, Babe Walls is not, by the way, a title that the city has anything to do with. Just for the record, the city's got nothing to do with that title. It is actually a program that's kind of a branching out of the Denver Crush program. The Denver Brush program is known throughout the world as far as its graffiti art, and it's absolutely magnificent. That takes place, the Crush program in Denver, but a group of women, about 20 female artists, wanted to create babe walls exclusively for female artists, and they chose Westminster as their site to present their art. And so you talk about a COVID-proof opportunity for people to enjoy. I believe those walls are staying up for at least the end of the calendar year. The area is off Hooker Street, south of 72nd, and there's about 10 to 12 different designs that are currently up. Parks, Recreation, Libraries, yes, was heavily involved with our Office of Cultural Affairs, led by Rich Newman. But John Hall and his entire team, Economic Development, really in working with the private sector but to be clear, all of the murals are on privately owned buildings, and John and his team are responsible for that. So we're proud of that program. And inviting people to enjoy that. I think we might be losing a little bit of the connection here, so I'm pausing here. Juliet, I'm sorry. I think I lost connection.
Jason, are you still with me?
Can you hear me now? I am. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Julia, can you hear me now or no?
Awesome. So I can hear you fine on this end.
Okay, so at any rate, I apologize. I don't know what happened there. Hopefully it's just a glitch. Hopefully we're still live. We're rolling live again. I'm just going to assume that that's the case.
Okay, so I think Jason's just finicking with his mic. I know you guys can hear us. I could hear it on this side as well, but I think there's a little bit of a delay. So while Jason gets set back up and comes back to us, let's humor him with a bunch of questions. So pepper them through. I know I see several of you have already started bringing in questions our way. So just make sure that you keep commenting and let us know what those questions are so that we can come to them whenever he does get back live.
Julia, am I back live now?
Okay, so I see you, Jason. All right.
Juliet, am I back?
Terrific. So I see you fine.
Okay, I apologize. I just moved to a location. Hopefully I can get a better signal. Hear me okay? Okay, great. It sounds like the audience can hear me. So apologize for the lighting, but I'm doing the best that I can, switching locations to get a better opportunity to get a connection here. So we'll give it a shot. But, you know, other than the Babe Walls where I just left off, and again, the program Babe Walls continuing through the end of the calendar year, just south of 72nd on Hooker, is a great local opportunity for folks to enjoy sort of a passive recreation opportunity to enjoy those local artists. But beyond that, let me highlight a couple of other things while I'm still connected, if you don't mind. Parks, Recreation, Libraries has been heavily involved in growing home and supporting the local food insecurity. And if you didn't know, there is in fact a local food insecurity in Westminster. And to put in perspective, Parks, Recreation, Libraries has delivered over 75,000 pounds of food from the Denver location to Westminster. And we've done that to make sure that gets distributed here locally in Westminster. So it kind of gives you another idea of the different ways Parks, Recreation, Libraries has been supporting the community during the public health crisis. But beyond that, let me plug a couple of other things, if I could, please. There's some upcoming other small special events. One is already underway, which is called The Rough, which is an immersive theater experience presented by the Catamounts at Legacy Ridge Golf Course. Speaking of Legacy and Walnut Creek golf courses, our annual Zombie Golf program will be coming back to the community on October 3rd. If you're interested in participating in that, it's really kind of a crazy but fun event. We'll be bringing a number of mobile opportunities out into parks and into our community. Some of those include a mobile art studio, also a mobile nature type of experience, as well as a mobile sort of neighborhood party experience, if you will. Because we've had to cancel many of our special events like Harvest Fest, which has 34,000 people attend, we've had to really revision how we can be involved with the community and community gatherings. And really what that means is that we have to be gathering at a smaller level, but also out into the community much more than bringing large groups of people to one particular site. So we're going to be doing more and more event programming out in our parks and in our neighborhoods frankly, for the foreseeable future. Let me hit a couple of other highlights, if I might. Our open space program, open space in Westminster, we have 150 miles of trails. That might be something that you might be kind of surprised about, but in fact, we have 150 miles of trails. With impact from COVID, we've had an increase of 400% of usage in our open space. So what that means is that people are able to enjoy that in a sort of a self-directed way. And it's been tremendous from the standpoint of healing from COVID impacts as far as the pandemic in our community, but also for our department. Obviously, that's a tremendous impact on maintenance, which we enjoy, but nonetheless, is a tremendous impact on our maintenance and operations. So some great opportunities for the community. So just wanted to plug some quick things. By the way, one more thing before I pause for other questions. There's a phone number that if you have questions about really anything in Parks, Recreation, Libraries, anything at all, registering for a class or a complaint or a concern, you can call 303-658-2902, 303-658-2902. And hopefully, Julie, eventually you can put that in the chat box. But folks can call that number should they have any particular questions. I'm going to pause here for a second. I have a couple of things to highlight, but I want to make sure I get any questions that have been asked addressed.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Thank you so much for accommodating with the sound stuff. Everybody could hear us fine, but I know you and I were a little bit delayed, so they were probably like, why can they not understand each other? So Lori was asking, related to the Bay Balls, she's asking, when is that slated to be completed? Is it all up and then it'll come back down, or is there a timeline for different phases in that?
Great question. And right now, that project, unless there's any minor touch-up, is actually completed. It was completed this past weekend. That'll stay up at least to the end of the calendar year, is what I've learned, which likely means longer than that, because what eventually happens, it gets painted back as another sort of blank canvas opportunity, and hopefully, knock on something, that program will keep coming back every year with different art opportunities for the community to enjoy.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. And I hope you knocked on something that can't move, because apparently that's the saying. So Marcus, and then I also see Counselor DeMont, who both have hopped on here with us. Good morning. Thank you for tuning in. We do have a couple of questions and another comment. This comment actually touched perfectly on your trail comment earlier, the usage, especially during COVID. So Brian Dice had shared, you can't think of a better time that the need for your departments out there, especially as it relates to the outdoor spaces, trails. Thanks to you and your team for continuing to do an amazing job. And I can't emphasize that enough. It really does start from the top down, and Jason's a very inclusive and supportive leader that's there. So glad to see that. So Brian Head's asking two questions. I know this is kind of covering you up, so I'm going to display them long enough that you can read it. I will read it verbally to you, and then we'll take it off so you can see your smiling face as you're answering these. So the two questions, the first being related to water. So water capacity and rates being talked about, especially a lot lately. We've heard it at City Council study sessions and just City Council in general. Has there been any discussion about excursion? I never can say that word right, but you know what I'm talking about, or otherwise managing the city's own use of water? And then the second, could you and your team take down Paul and his team from the Westminster Soccer? Oh, that's hilarious. So for those of you that are tuned in with us, we actually did have Paul from Westminster Soccer Club, I want to say about nearly a month ago, talk on our nonprofit corner. If you don't know about that awesome nonprofit, please make sure that you watch that, support them and what they're doing for our kids here in the community. But two questions. The second one is I would like to know the answer of as well.
No, great questions. And let's start with the first one, the xeriscaping question. And city parks? And the answer is yes, absolutely. And where we could use a lot of help from the public and support from the community is helping us identify, what areas perhaps that should be restored to native grasses. Of course, we have a plan on that, but we want to work with the community to make sure that we're bringing folks along with us. And sometimes folks see places that are dying off and they're assuming that the department's not taking care of it. Now, it might be the case if there's a broken irrigation or something like that, but it also might be that we're going through what's called the turf conversion program. We actually convert bluegrass essentially into native grasses, and in doing so saves a tremendous amount of water for the community. So, we can use the community's input as we re-envision the future of parks. Many of our parks are very old. And how have the uses of those areas changed over time? What areas could be converted to native? The first year or two of conversion to native grasses isn't necessarily the most attractive, but if you've seen areas that have been restored after a couple of years, they actually do look quite stunning. So yes, in fact, the city is pursuing turf reduction where it makes sense. And every year we have a target that we continue to ramp up to reduce the impact of water use, to help keep rates lower for the community. And by the way, even though this is often confused, even though Parks, Recreation, Libraries is part of the city, we are independent of Parks, Public Works and Utilities. We pay the same exact rate as the ratepayers in the community. So we're kind of all in this together. But being the largest water user, we're working hard to reduce turf, yes. The second question is, can Jason's team take down Paul's team? I don't know. I guess it depends who's on his team that particular day. I'm pretty sure I can beat him in a foot race, though. How's that? Does that work for you, Brian? I think I'm willing to bet $100 towards our most favorite nonprofit that I could beat him in a foot race. How about that?
I love this. We're getting a lot of sass today. I'm like, I've not seen this level. My mom just texted me a little bit ago. She's like, you're like an athlete professional today. Oh my gosh, people are savage on a Monday. So tell us a little bit more on your end, Jason. I know you've got a wealth of things that you were looking to share and you're taking up questions in between, which I love. But if there's a couple more things that you want to get highlighted, and as people are chiming in, if they can ask us any additional questions, whether they be personal or professional, like we just answered, let us know. We have our next chamber event planned. This does give me an idea. Absolutely. It uses the outdoors. Stay tuned.
So I can certainly plug a couple of other things. Thank you for that. Some of the programs that have been restored or in the process of being restored, there's quite a bit of things for the community to do. Golf, as an example. I know golf isn't for everyone personally. I admit it. I don't play golf. I just never learned how to play the game. I have a lot of love for it, though. Believe it or not, during the month of July, we had our most rounds of golf in our entire history of golf operations, of any month of July in our history, our long, proud history, as well as our most rounds. So people are absolutely using our courses from that opportunity with social distancing and enjoying that activity. But beyond that, outdoor pools, Countryside Pool has been open for quite some time. And it'll continue to be open through the summer. Folks are regularly, you do need to book ahead of time, unfortunately, to use Countryside Pool. And that phone number I gave you earlier, 303-658-2902, is an example of where you can call the book pool time if you'd like to. But a lot of folks are enjoying Countryside Pool this summer. We're really happy about that. Our summer camp program, which just ended here about a week or so ago, had tremendous participation from families. We're very proud that we were able to offer that service in such a challenging year. Our outdoor fitness programs just started this past week and are nearly sold out. So we're looking to add more. Right now, we run 25 classes per week. We typically run 200 per week, by the way, but we're going to look to expand those. So there's a great opportunity for activation. We talked about the open space quite a bit. Believe it or not, I just found out we still have a couple of private paddlecraft permits available for Stanley Lake. Those are prorated as the season is winding down. But if you have interest in bringing a private paddlecraft to Stanley Lake, you can still secure a permit. We've never seen so many permits at Stanley Lake in our history as far as private paddlecraft. Currently, we're selling as many as 675. We've never sold more than 175 permits. Gives you an idea of things to do. We're hoping that a popular question that we get is about our water playgrounds and our water play features. It seems like this heat's never going to end. So we are trying to get those open relatively soon. We are working hard to get those open. But beyond that, one brand new class we're opening up is a youth and teen chess program outdoors at City Park. Our adult softball league continues to run. We're about to start some additional homework-related support functions for the schools and our children. Kind of gives you an idea of one more area. Our libraries continue to run our curbside pickup program, whereby you can select your materials ahead of time, drive up, and have them ready for you, as well as virtual programs, story times, that sort of things, which have been hugely popular. And the summer reading program is just finishing up now. Our next phase of libraries opening, by the way, because we get that question a lot, we're seeking, hopefully soon, to have the ability of folks to at least book private slots to use for our computers. Computers, when you think about it, the ways that our community uses them for all sort of reasons, but it's job preparedness, it's research, those sort of things. So it's important that we restore that back to the community as soon as reasonable. So I'll pause there and ask for questions.
Wow, that's awesome. So I've captured as much as I could out of it. And while people are digesting that information, Jason, the city is no exception to some of these guidelines that are coming out from our counties. And so when you're touching on, the pool and the availability to book that, you all are following the cleanliness and the standards. And what does that look like, just for the knowledge of people that might be hesitant to use some of those outdoor facilities?
Yeah, I would like to say that the city of Westminster has been very strategic and purposeful and careful with our reopening plans. And if anyone would ever like to chat with me about that, so they do feel more comfortable, I'd love to have that conversation. For instance, Countryside Pool. Yes, the city is under the same exact guidelines as all other organizations. And so things like Countryside Pool, the capacity there is 50 people at any given time. We have a shutdown between the use of time before bringing 50 more new guests. Everything is cleaned thoroughly. When I mentioned the private computer use program, hopefully coming soon at the libraries, there again is a 30-minute window between every slot, and those areas are cleaned thoroughly, and there'll be dividers and spacing and all those sort of things so people feel comfortable using those areas. A lot of our programming is focused on the outdoors. The guide we receive from public health is the outdoors provides a great opportunity for health and wellness during COVID, as far as getting people outdoors, and exemplified with our 400% increase in our trail use. So we work very hard to make sure that, and there are frankly too many things to mention in a short amount of time to talk about everything we're doing with public health. Every single program, literally every program that we run thousands of them, has its own specific standards of how we execute that program in consideration of public health.
Thank you so much. I always like to just kind of touch on those, because I know there are some people that are just a little bit hesitant. So we try and give them as much information as possible so they can make that decision if they want to go out there and start enjoying things. I see Kim Llewellyn and several others. I've gone over our 30 minutes. I know I've tried to give us a little bit more time because of my back and forth and not hearing you, and vice versa. Is there anything you want to give a last minute before I round this out and close out our feature for today?
Juliet, thank you again. Our collaboration, I really appreciate it. So many great things that you guys are doing. Really a big fan. I'll plug that phone number one more time. Should you have any questions about anything that I covered or anything else about Parks, Recreation, and Libraries, 303-630-658-2902, 7 days a week. You can contact that. We have staff manning the phones to make sure that all your questions are answered as quickly as possible. The community's been great about being patient with us. we provide so many touch points in the community. Yes, people really want our program services to be reopened, but they've been very patient, and I appreciate that. Just know it's certainly it's not because we don't care. As a matter of fact, we really miss our patrons. That's kind of what we do in Parks and Recreation Libraries, and we appreciate your patience in getting us these programs and services reactivated. Same with City Council. Appreciate all their support. We talked about Babe Walls earlier, just innovative things to do during COVID. They've been wonderful and supportive. But Juliet, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I do apologize for the technical difficulty we had there for a few minutes. Thank you.
That was okay. Thank you to everybody that's tuned in. For those of you that do catch this later on, after we're done being live, give us that hashtag replay. Let us know that you've enjoyed the content. I'll try and bring Jason back in at some other point as well. I know there are a lot of things that they're doing in the department, and it's so great to hear from him and see that they're moving forward, but that people are truly utilizing it. And that's the number one key. And you mentioned COVID and the need for health and wellness, and that's a strong part of it. We've learned that it's affecting people that have vitamin D deficiency, that it's affecting people that are overweight, and so this helps fill that and hopefully be able to address some of those issues. Generally, we have our update from our mayor. As of last Thursday, according to Jeffco Health Department, we had 6 days of a decline in case counts. So that was positive. I haven't heard the latest since that time, but I did want to report that from last Thursday. We will be back here again at 11 a.m. tomorrow for our daily broadcast. And tomorrow's is going to be with Councillor Seymour. He's actually speaking to us from his lens. As many of you are aware, Rich Seymour has been a past board member of our organization and an active member of the Chamber of Commerce. So he's speaking as it relates to his industry in insurance and how they've weathered COVID, what that's looked like. Thank you to Councillor Smith for also hopping on here as well. Council last week approved funding for overdrive for library materials. Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for including that as well. And Lori, we've enjoyed you. For everybody that's taken time out of their day, whether you popped on early, stayed with us the entire time, or just popped in and out, we appreciate you just getting the knowledge of information, and also encourage you to share this out with people that you know in your network that might find it of value, whether it's family, residents, or people that are visiting you for a short period of time. This is great information for them to know and have. And to Jason, I appreciate you for fitting this in and making it work. Do not pop off immediately. I will be closing this out, but I just want to thank you. I know that you've got a robust department that's there, but I really do truly mean it. It does go from the top down. And if the leadership is not there cultivating, encouraging, and guiding, then there's no ship that has a direction. So we appreciate all you're doing in Parks and Rec and the times that we can partner on things and throughout the year. Thank you so much.